So for today's video, we are going inside of my tarot cabinet. So this is actually the cabinet where I keep pretty much all of my tarot related things, my oracle decks, books on tarot. I guess I look at it as my spiritual journey cabinet, if that makes sense. So there are actually two shelves. The one that we are looking at today is the top one that holds all of my tarot decks, and then the one beneath it is the one that holds all of my oracle decks, my books, some of my crystals, and things like that. But today we are just focusing on the tarot shelf because I'm going to be trying to figure out and possibly come to terms with getting rid of some of my tarot decks. And I know that I have to do this at some point with my oracle decks too. Not that I have to do it, but I feel like I should do it. I've been feeling recently that I need to declutter a little bit, that I'm hanging on to a lot of things that aren't really serving a purpose for me anymore, things that I am no longer connected with. So I kind of wanted to walk through my tarot decks today with you guys. I figured this could also help me figure it out. I haven't really thought a whole lot about it. I just know that there are decks in here that I'm no longer connected with, but I have never gotten rid of any of my tarot decks before. So I'm having a hard time letting go, even though I know that I should. I just feel like if I were to find these decks another home, that they will probably get more use out of them. Someone else may find that they are connected with them more than me, and I just feel like they're too special to just be sitting on a shelf in a cabinet. But once again, it is easier said than done because I am having a difficult time picturing myself giving them to somebody else. So there are a few decks in here that I already know, hands down, I am not getting rid of. And those decks are the Everyday Witch Tarot, the Tarot Vintage, Light Seers, the Radiant Rider-Waite, the Radiant Wise Spirit, the Crow Tarot, Modern Witch, and in here is the Radiant Wise Spirit, and the Shadowland Tarot. So those are the ones that I still feel very connected with, very drawn to using. So the decks that are in question, and I'm going to explain my reasoning for wanting to possibly give them up, but also why I'm still hanging on to them. So the first one would be the Tarot of the Divine, which is this lovely deck right here. So this is a deck that I am just not really called to use or pulled to use very often. I think that it is a beautiful deck. I love the artwork and the imagery. It is definitely a fairy tale type of deck, which I love. But for some reason, I haven't been connected with this deck for quite some time. And I'm not really sure why that is. Some of my favorite imagery for certain cards is in this deck. For example, one of my favorite cards is the Queen of Swords, and I am obsessed with this imagery for the Queen of Swords. I think it just radiates strength and feminine power and beauty, and yeah, when I seen this card for the first time, I was blown away. Another one would be the imagery for the Queen of Cups. I am obsessed with this imagery as well, but I just think that it is so beautiful. So a lot of the times when I don't connect with a deck, it is because I just don't connect with the imagery very well, but I can't say that for this deck. So I'm not quite sure what the reason is, and I think I'm hanging on to this deck because I feel like it may not be our time right now. I feel like at some point in the future I could find myself relating more with this deck and being drawn to use it more, because that has happened in the past where I found myself not really using a deck for a while, and then all of a sudden I am really pulled or drawn to start using it. So I feel like the same thing could happen with this deck, which is why I am a bit hesitant on giving it up at this time. So I think this one has to stay in the maybe pile. I just feel like I'm not quite ready yet to give this one up. And it was also one of my first tarot purchases. It has to be, I don't think it was the first, or maybe it was the first, either the first or the second or the third. It was in the top 3 for my first tarot purchases, so that definitely also plays a part in me having trouble with getting rid of this one. The next deck is the very cute and sweet Luna Soul Tarot. So this is another one that I don't use very often, but unlike the Tarot of the Divine deck, I still feel very connected with this one. So I have asked myself multiple times, am I really wanting to get rid of this one, or have we just not found our time yet? And I feel like we just haven't found our time yet. I'm not ready to part with this one, I don't think. I really enjoy the imagery. I find it to be very cute and warming, and it just gives off really good vibes. So even though I don't find myself using this one a whole lot at the moment, I feel like our time will come. I feel more confident about that with this deck than I do with the Tarot of the Divine. So even though I have contemplated giving this one up, I don't think I will be doing so at this point in time. So I know this is supposed to be a video about decluttering, and so far the first 2 that I have mentioned I'm not quite ready to get rid of, but the next one that I want to talk about, which is this little cutie deck right here. I'm not really 100% sure what this one is even called. I've just been calling it Tarot the Complete Kit because that's what it says on the cover. So this cutie little pocket deck I ended up getting on, I believe it was Facebook Marketplace, and it was only like $5 or $10. So at the time I figured that I couldn't pass that up. And I used it a few times after purchasing it, but once again I wasn't as connected to this deck as much as I would have liked to be, which is kind of funny for someone like me who really enjoys more like simple imagery. It's almost like this one, it's really cute, like the imagery in this is really cute, but I think because I am still you know, somewhat learning the cards. I still rely a lot of the times on the imagery to help me. That this is almost not enough for me. But like I said, it is really adorable. I love it. Just for me to be able to use it, it's just not quite enough for me personally. So I think this is the first deck so far that I've talked about that I would say I would be happy to pass it along to someone who would find use out of it more than me, who will take care of it and love it and enjoy using it. So the next possible candidate is the Magical Nordic Tarot. And I feel like my reasoning for possibly wanting to give this one up is very similar to the tarot, the little complete kit deck that I just showed you, is that the imagery in a lot of the cards is not enough for me. It's quite difficult for someone like me, like I said, who still relies a lot on the imagery, to read when a lot of the cards are like this. So there are really nice cards for the majors and the court cards. I love the colors that are used. It's a very beautiful deck. But for, you know, practical, being able to use it, I struggle with this one. And it's just not one that I am drawn to use a lot of the time. I think I maybe have only done like 1 or 2 readings with this deck. I will use it from time to time in Instagram posts or on YouTube, but when it comes to doing, you know, like readings for myself or for my friends or family, it's just not one that I feel called to use. So I think that this one would also be one that I would feel okay to pass along to someone else. Okay, and next up, can't see it because it is hiding, but it would be the Cat Tarot. So this one is super cute, especially if you love cats. But unfortunately, this is another one that I am just no longer connected with. I feel like I bought this one mainly because I looked at a review or something online and I liked a lot of the cards. I liked the imagery. There were a few cats in here that look like my cat, Sebastian. So I was really excited about that. And then when I ended up ordering the deck, again, I used it a few times, and then that was it. I never felt drawn to use it again. So this is another one that you may have seen me using in Instagram posts or in YouTube videos, but when it comes to personal readings and things like that, yeah, I don't ever really use it. So this is one of the pictures that I saw online before purchasing it, and he looks just like my Siamese, so I thought that was super cute, and that's what kind of made me really want the deck. And it's fun and it's sweet, but I don't know, the connection is just not there for me and this deck anymore. But I do know someone who I think would really enjoy this deck, so I feel like if I do choose to pass it along, I know exactly who I can give it to, and I know that it will be taken care of. So last but not least is the Aquarian Tarot, and this isn't one that really I can get rid of, or really want to get rid of, but since I'm kind of talking about decks that I'm not connected to, this is definitely one of them. This is probably the one that I am the least connected to and never really feel drawn to use ever. But if you are familiar with my channel, then you may have come across the video where I talk about the tarot deck that started it all for me, and that would be this lovely deck here. So this deck was bought by my dad. I don't know if he was a teenager or early 20s or whatever, when he had a bit of an interest in tarot, and then I ended up finding it a little bit ago. And yeah, so this was the very first deck that I ever attempted to use, but I have never really felt connected to it. I am not a huge fan of the imagery. For me, it gives off really like strange vibes. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, this is one that I rarely ever use. I don't think I've ever used it. The only time I really used it was back in the beginning when I was first trying to, you know, see what tarot was all about, and this was the only deck that we had around. And then after I purchased my own deck, I never pulled this one out again. But I keep it because, for one, it's not really mine. I mean, I don't think my dad would care all that much if I did get rid of it. But it is still the deck that started it all for me. And because of that, I have a major respect for this deck. So that is why, even though there is no connection, really, no connection to use this deck, other than the connection I have with it being the deck that started me on tarot, it is one that I can't bring myself to get rid of. So yeah, there you have it. I kind of just wanted to share my thoughts with you guys today on the decks that I have in my collection that I'm not really connected with anymore, and how I am possibly thinking about giving them up, finding new homes for them. I will keep you guys posted if I do manage to find the nerve to actually pass them along. Like I said, there are a few that I'm definitely more certain about finding new homes for than others. But yeah, that need of wanting to declutter a little bit is still very strong, and I feel like, at least for some of these decks, our time together is coming to an end. It's not going to be easy for me to give any of them up. So if you are a fellow reader, my question to you is, have you ever struggled with decluttering? Have you been able to, or are you still holding on to decks that you no longer feel connected to, or you no longer use anymore? Feel free to let me know in the comments so I know that I am not alone in this struggle. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I shall see you in the next one.